So we'll continue to discuss that. Meanwhile, the violence in Ferguson, Missouri, prompting many to ask for peaceful protests, including our next guest. We told you about him yesterday, and you heard from him possibly online on your own. This has gone viral.
We're doing out here is not helping. Change is not going to come until we change it. And I hate to say this, but I'm going to tell you what you need to hear opposed to what you want to hear. All we know how to do is blame the police and white folks for our actions. All we know how to do is march and riot and lock and loot. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm not going to tell you we going to march, we going to do this, we going to do that. I'm going to tell you, give it, let's change.
Joining us now is that very man, Minister Johnathan Gentry. Johnathan, thanks for being with us. That is a 6 minutes packed with passion. Why did you want everyone to hear what you had to say?
It's a continual cycle. Thank you for having me. It's just a constant cycle. It's like we're just going around in circles year after year, decade after decade. Excuses, excuses, excuses is all we bring. Time and time again. It's just enough. Let's take responsibility for what we're doing out here.
What did you make of Al Sharpton, the Reverend Al Sharpton showed up to town? Because, you know, a lot of people said, what, Reverend, why don't you go up to Chicago? There's killings every weekend in Chicago. You could bring the cameras to Chicago and talk about it there. Instead, they go into Ferguson. What was your response to him showing up?
Gilbert Arenas is absolutely right. Where were you in Chicago on 4th of July weekend when over 60 drive-by shootings took place? Where were you a couple weeks later when 47 shootings took place in Chicago? Where were you when that woman in Oakland lost both of her children 3 weeks apart? Where were you? You only come around when something happens with the police or Caucasians. You're not there for the black community, so you need to stop fronting NAACP as well. I want to call them out as well. They're good for nothing. All they do is perpetuate hate. I represent humanity. It's just from my heart. Humanity. God came for humanity. You know, enough with our excuses. And this came from, and let me say this, this came from the rebellion of the two gentlemen. Unfortunately, he lost his life. Understand, let's subtract race and police from the equation. If you two brothers would have just moved to the sidewalk, like the officer said, we would not be here. If you would have just moved to the sidewalk and obeyed, we would not be here. 1 Samuel 15:23, rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. This went from stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, here we are, stage 5, total chaos.
Johnathan, you say that you have been pulled over a number of times in your car by an officer, and you say the way you handle it is how people should handle it. I listened to your entire rant. What's the difference here? You said we actually need to change. What if someone believes that they are being pulled over because of their race? How are they to handle that?
I've been pulled over. That's why I mentioned that. I've been pulled over many times. Many times. I have a brand new vehicle. I live in a valley. It's all customized. I've been pulled over. I know how to act when I'm pulled over. That's our problem. You picking on me because I'm black. What you doing that for? It just escalates. Humble yourself. The Bible says in Proverbs 15 verse 1, soft answer turns away wrath. Swallow your arrogance. Whatever that they got to do, whatever they put you over for, if you didn't do nothing, what's the problem? Well, that's our problem today. We're just so uptight about everything. It's sickening.
Right. Now, Jonathan, I can tell you're fed up. What kind of reaction have you gotten? I know you're getting a lot of views. What kind of feedback?
This is positive feedback. Of course, the black community, oh, you Uncle Tom, yada, yada. Honestly, the only Uncle Toms I see in I want to say another word, are the ones burning down your own community. Sorry to say. I'm not Al Sharpton. I'm not NAACP. I'm not going to go down there and say, we going to do this, we going to be okay. No. Let's change our ways.
What would you like to see from the President of the United States? A lot of people think, you know what, he might have missed an opportunity here to speak directly to the black community. What do you think that the President, here was the President speaking yesterday from Martha's Vineyard. I'm going to play this soundbite and get your response. Take a listen.
I know that emotions are raw right now in Ferguson, and there are certainly passionate differences about what has happened. There are going to be different accounts of how this tragedy occurred. There are going to be differences in terms of what needs to happen going forward. Now's the time for healing. Now's the time for peace and calm on the streets of Ferguson. Now is the time for an open and transparent process to see that justice is done.
Johnathan, your response to that?
Same old song and dance. We heard it from Trayvon Martin. You didn't say nothing in Chicago when it was a war zone where you came from. You didn't say anything about that. Why this? Why this is just PR, in my opinion.
And the
Someone handed him a note and said, speak.
Right. Well,
it's hard for me to swallow.
listen, everything you're saying, I hear it, I understand, but I'm just thinking about somebody at home right now and saying, well, Johnathan Gentry is giving in to the fact that there might be racial bias in this country, and you just said, well, there is, so deal with it and make the best of it. How do you stop the behavior you don't like, being pulled over because possibly you're black? Because you have the right answers is one thing, but the fact that you're pulled over, people say is unacceptable.
Your question is what? What's your question?
The question is, what do you say to people sitting at home and saying, by answering the questions and getting along, identifying that you're pulled over because of race, and dealing with it is giving in?
The problem is, it's our reaction. It's how we respond. It's how we respond. You understand? Those two men, Mike Brown and his friend, challenged the police. He told you to move to the sidewalk. You said, no, we're going to wait till we get to our destination. That's our problem today as African-American males and African-Americans. We just feel like we're constantly challenged, so it's an ego thing. It's just a competition, and it doesn't help. Someone has to humble themselves. I just realized these officers are doing their job. I understand there are bad cops out there. Yes, that I understand. But some of these gentlemen, officers, and my heart goes out to all of them, they have an extreme stressful job. Let them do their job and be on your way. It just takes a couple minutes. Swallow your pride. That's the only way we're going to get ahead.
Johnathan, we want to thank you for being with us here. You know, certainly some will say that you had extreme statements with us this morning, but we thank you for being frank and honest.
Thanks, Johnathan.
Thank you.
Right, go on our Facebook page right now. Weigh in on how you feel that Johnathan would handle this and where we should be going with this and where you stand. Meanwhile, 13 minutes now before the top.